like I say, I mean, a lot of it is just so when you find out about the truth of everything that they were doing, you know, two sons shall rule, this, that, and other. It's like I watched all of it. I lived through all of it. Um, you know, like I say, Richard Nixon was supposedly from a accredited school, which was Harvard, basically, which is basically JFK and all that other stuff, and it was actually just bullshit degree. You know, might as well just print one up in a printing press. You know, and he was going around the world. He went to China, he went to Russia to promote the Republican, blah, blah, blah. You know, basically he was just shooting people and killing people, pretty much. I mean, it wasn't anything more than that. His skunk works, shit works, basically. Code words, this, that. It was all just basically lies and pretty much just, you know, they shot and killed people and shot and killed more people. And mostly they got shot and killed a lot. You know, and they try to do wars. You know, basically they're just shooting people in the back mostly. Just get someone when their back's turned and then shoot them. And it wasn't really more, you know, they were trying to say that silencers didn't exist. You can't silence a gun. It's impossible to silence a gun. You know, I mean, Nixon was actually going up to the Senate and to the you know, national TV going, you can't silence a gun. It's impossible to silence a gun. And like I had like 3 different groups working on silencers for guns. And Nixon was like they're not stars out there. That's space dust that's glowing. That's effervescent or whatever. Yeah, they didn't know. He didn't know shit about the universe. Like I say, we're actually sitting on top of a sun, a star. You know, and and Nixon again and Jimmy Carter were like, oh yeah, the one son, the two sons shall rule. Yeah, saints and. You know, and you know, he was just more publicly spouting, bull. You know, it's just like the Skunk Works. It's shit works. You know, Skunk Works was a place where checks were printed from, and it was really for sanitation and stuff. And they weren't really doing sanitation. And and he went, with his Republican gavel, and you know, it's a bunch of people trying to control courts and a whole bunch of judges that weren't really judges. Didn't do any kind of due process or anything. People just thought they were, you know, and it's just, you know, like, I mean, it was just a bunch of, you know, and they thought that yeah, if it looks good, it's good, you know, and they were killing people and trying to dig down to the old big mines, and they're trying to do this and they're trying to do that, and they were, you know, publicly they were like blah blah blah, you know, and then, you know, behind, you know, in the back, you know, Rick Bush and everybody else was like behind closed doors, you know. It's like, and like I tried to tell him, I said 80 galaxies. I'm that person. Like, there is no lying here. And they're like, and Nixon was like, yeah, sure, we can lie. Of course we can lie. Blah blah blah. And Rodney, blah blah blah. Republicans are right, you know. And then they did the whole, like, there's not enough resources. We have to go over there and attack them to get their resources, or else we won't have resources. And it was just more Republicans trying to, you know, enslave, control, subvert. You know, it was stupid. It was just, you know. And we found out that Harvard had all this whole thing planned out of how they were going to attack and kill the Germans, you know, going to the fuel depots. But then the Germans themselves blew up the fuel depots. We're like, well, we know what you're going to do, so, and we don't need fuel, and blew them up before the Republicans could even get there. Like, I think Germany actually blew up all their fuel depots, actually. They're like, well, we know what you're going to do, so... And they actually blew up a lot of the bridges and a lot of the fuel depots themselves, I think, possibly, because they knew what was going to happen, and they knew what the Yankees wanted. They wanted the fuel so they could run the tanks, so they could go around killing people. So they just, you know, and the Yankee army basically ran out of fuel and had to walk. Anyway, I don't know. All I know is we knew what was going on. We saw what was going on. You know, it was plain to see for everyone, and it was basically just JFK, Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, and a whole bunch of other ones doing this little like war fantasy, you know, thing, and you know, they had a limited amount of everything, and they couldn't do a sustained war, and it was more like just a whole bunch of little short-term vents. And Germany, was, it's always hard to attack someone. So, I mean, Germany was like, even though they had better aircraft, it's like just wait until, and then get them. And I mean, by German pilots, they were defending their home turf. So, they, even though, and Nixon and JFK and Jimmy Carter and everyone were like, oh yeah, we're winning over there, we're winning, and they weren't winning. They were losing. Every person that went over there from Harvard or Yale died. And they tried mass attacks, they tried sneak maneuvers, they tried this, they tried that, and Germany was just on top of it. It was a problem not just for me; it was a problem for everyone. And so, it was nothing more than terrorist activity. We just didn't exactly know who it was exactly. It was Richard Nixon. Other people knew, I guess. Anyway, we didn't know how they were getting their money or their funding. Skunk Works, basically, the fake SR-71 program, which didn't really exist, more than a plywood airplane. Like Germany said, it's a plywood airplane. We inspected it. It's made of plywood. It's just painted like our SR-71. It can't even fly. It doesn't even have engines. It just looks like it has engines. So, turned out that Yankees just had a fake spy plane, a fake this, fake that, fake tanks, blow-up tanks, basically, and they were charging the United States as if they had real armies, and they didn't. They had a football team with motorcycles and guns, and that was it. That was the Yankee whatever, and they would just run around and basically shoot people pretending to be the American government or the United States. Rodney probably involved, Hells Angels, Rick Bush, and basically 1920 to 1940 whatever, basically, and then they carpet bombed a whole bunch of cities, like somewhere around there. They did a surprise attack, where basically Nixon, Jimmy Carter thought that they would basically, kill them all and then we rule. And it didn't really work because they killed a bunch of people, but they just scattered, and basically, I mean, as soon as the first, I mean, people aren't stupid. So, and then blaming the American, it's America, they blame me, of course. Of course they're going to blame the only leader that they know about, so, I mean, but they blamed Hitler, they blamed Germany, they blamed Russia, they blamed everyone, saying, oh yeah, it's out of the country, and then, later on nowadays they call it terrorists. Well, where are these terrorists? Who are these terrorists? Well, it was Jimmy Carter, Nixon, Rick Bush, Rodney probably, Rodney Dean Briley, who was appointed to the School of Washington or something, basically just stripped the mine or whatever, they found slaves inside the basement. Underneath the White House, they found slaves down there. It was just Republicans, and they talk about, oh yeah, blah, blah. It's like they went door to door to those houses, mostly to German houses, and basically just stole their chickens and stole their stuff and then took them to another house and fed people. And it was Republican, Yankee, whatever, and they would go, oh yeah, all these good deeds, And, usually they raped people when they took the chickens. They wouldn't just take chickens or take stuff. They would rape the women and children or kill the men and then take the stuff to another family or another group and say that they were doing a good deed. That was what they were doing. That was Nixon, Skunk Works, Jimmy Carter. That was their great work.